And when we put him in the dunk tank with sharks, and
Like,
he got all his fingers bitten off one by one, and we laughed, and we poured lemon juice in the shark tank after that. Welcome back to Seeker and Confessor, a Sword of Truth podcast. I'm your host, Frank.
And I'm Lauren.
And today we're covering chapter 47 of Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind.
Why did you drop it?
I fixed it.
Was there like a little screw in you?
Yeah, that's why I paused or so. I had to tighten the screw. So, who knows if it'll come back, but...
All right. So... These two episodes
These two episodes
are going to be really difficult to discuss because there's just so many things going on. Even without the parts that are very odd.
Yeah. Even without those. Yeah.
It's still like, say we just take the like skeleton of what's happening. It's still like a difficult thing to discuss.
Correct.
Like to dig into because you're kind of just like, it's bad. But then you add some other, I don't know, seasonings on the top there.
There's a lot to get into.
And I don't know what to do with that.
I don't know. I'm just going to go, okay, so the most trigger warnings yet for this chapter, probably.
Well, you know what? It does hit all the previous trigger warnings. Like they're all brought up.
Yeah. We tap on every trigger warning so far.
I feel bad because I feel like I'm gonna laugh.
You almost have to.
Because some of it saying it out loud is just so like, oh my God.
Like if Terry was my good friend and he was writing this book and he brought good friend. Good friend. Good friend, good kind
he brought
comes
this
to me with the outline of this book, and then we get to chapter 47 and I'm reading it. These bullet points alone.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd bring within 500 miles of the Vatican. Like, there's a lot of things going on here that are like, why and how come so much and so hard and in that direction, and you didn't have to do any of this, and you could have just not written. But you did. You wrote this.
But it's like hard because I guess I've heard so many people make that statement about things in books that it kind of pisses me off a little bit. Right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you didn't have to include that. You didn't have to write that.
Sure.
And like often you're like, right, of course not. But that was something that's like you can explore unpleasant things.
Absolutely.
I don't like defaulting immediately.
No, I agree with you.
You get what I'm saying? There's so
what
many people who could like...
Yeah, they take things just cut it off way too soon. But yeah.
To work with, I'm like, there are so many like grim, dark, just dark books and especially fantasy books that exist. Granted, that trend had not started happening at this time.
No.
But what I would say is interesting because there's like books that like could get dark this way that it feels expected if it's the tone. I just struggle a lot extra, I think, because this book so often just doesn't feel like it's leading me to these places and it doesn't have the right tonality for it. I agree. But then I am like, okay, maybe that's like what he, in some capacity, desired.
Well, it's
but
clearly
like,
what he desired.
I don't know why. It's just so much of it feels really childlike and like very simple storytelling. Silly, archetypal goofiness, fun. Yeah. Granted, Denna, everything with that was also really dark. I don't know. It just sort of pops up, you know, and it's like
shattered glass. Though.
For some reason, Denna like the Mordsith kind
Denna's
of work
got a
in this.
bubblegum feeling.
I know, but then until she starts talking about her training with her parents and stuff, right? And then we're here, and we're like, oh, we're okay. Whoa.
Yeah, it mixes like a mischievous, like Puck-like character's energy with like the very harshest grimdark of like George R. R. Martin.
It's
with
a
like
little...
this is what it's really like in Rwanda, like during the genocide, and it's like, why are we? I am experiencing every color of paint water imaginable. Like, it's like this book in my mind has like 40 different tones.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And not because he's a master of his craft, just because he wanted to throw a bunch of paint at you. It's a Jackson Pollock
feeling
sexual assault. That's what's going on here.
Every time he felt anything, he was like throwing that paint splatter on.
Anytime he felt anything. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it feels like. All right, I will say one thing.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was a very early episode, I said that I was curious because I knew there was so much like sexual assault and whatever going on in this series. And I was like, does Terry like toe that line of like keeping an element of eroticism in it?
Yeah.
I would say surprisingly not really. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like he does do weird stuff here and there, not even in a way that I'm upset about, where he'll like mix them, and you can mix them. I was like, no, people are right. I think at least up until this, this example, I don't know in the other books, but I was like, he does really go out of his way to make it clear that like they are bad. This is bad. This is not titillating. Like he really doesn't.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think, right? I don't know.
There's definitely something. I don't know.
Well,
I don't
like,
know if I fully agree with that, but
I know I don't not fully. I guess I'm comparing it to like the Outlander book series, which I actually really enjoy.
Yeah.
I would say like that book series does a lot more of the like, okay, we're doing like essay, and it plays on a lot of like it totally says like bad, but you're kind of like, okay, the way you're writing it feels like we're exploring the eroticism of
in the bad,
yeah. And whatever, that's a really complicated topic that I have nuanced opinions on, but we're not gonna get into it. But so I was curious if like Terry was good. Like I would say like there's a book series like that. Compared to that, like this scene felt a lot more like cut and dry in terms of it being like kind of grotesque and unpleasant and not sexy. Especially when you infuse all the weird theming of what we we go. Like you're kind of like, all right.
It's hard. I don't know how to feel. I
don't know how to feel. Okay, I guess I would say like the Mordsith have more of that confusing mix of tone where you're like bad but hot. Like this didn't, like there were so many things with Denna where I'd be like horrible in reality, but like in
she's
fantasy,
pushing her
like
big boobs onto him and walking around in
like
heels.
This scene with Kaylin did not feel that way.
No,
right?
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with that.
Know?
Yeah, but it does feel weird. Like certain things were like we're lingering on certain elements of this, and it's like I think in Terry's mind, and I think that the way he intended for this to be taken, a lot of the time was, I am just trying to illustrate the horrors of these people and this sort of thing. But it has a flavor that I can't quite...
It does have something.
I can't pin it.
You're right.
But it has something in there where I'm like, something tastes a little funny in this.
Yeah,
and
but
I
maybe
don't know how to explain that. But
yeah, I have a hard time.
But as we go... Because we don't leave this shit.
Oh, no, it's the whole...
This is not the first book.
Well, no, that's the thing.
This keeps coming back.
Well,
Kaylin gets almost raped, triple raped, gang raped, then rapes back. Like, I don't know, all this sort of, like, it just keeps happening.
That is interesting, because I was thinking that, like, as I was reading it, I was like, okay, if this was, like, one of the only times it happened, I don't think I'd really think much of it, except for the weird seasonings. But other than that, like, just, a quad coming and... That's
their whole thing.
Yeah,
they
like,
love
but
the
it
rape,
is weird how often it comes up. And then I just go back to, like, okay, he obviously is, for whatever reason, just feeling compelled to go, what's one of the worst indignities of between humans? He went to that. Then he went, okay... Every time I need to get across somebody feeling completely out of control and completely subjugated, and I want to show that somebody else is bad, I will just use that. And it, like, there's a weirdness to being like, it's just kind of lazy. Because I'm like, even
it's definitely lazy, but
out it being sexual assault, like, if he always just kept going back to the same, say it kept being like a sword fight. I don't know if he was like every time we do that,
cuts someone's finger off. You'd be like, he just keeps cutting a finger off.
All right, stop doing that one.
Yeah.
But then on top of it being like what it is, you start being like, okay, can we do something else? Maybe.
And I agree. But the problem is, I think that it's not just that he continuously does these things to illustrate how bad certain men are, and those are bad men. There's no question.
Yeah.
But it's like, A, you're picking the most extreme thing and you're always doing it. Weird. But these scenes aren't like he's just like slapping the trope down again. He really gets in these scenes. Right. Like we get like 8K HD descriptions over and over, and they're like nuanced and different each time.
I don't know. I don't remember how the rest of them feel.
We get a nipple being
I know.
cut
Listen,
off. I know you know. Well I know you are aware.
That Duchess Lumholtz will be coming soon. Listen, I know
she will. I don't know. So we got to get into this, and I really don't want to, but we got to dive right in, all right? So Zedd is sleeping on the ground, and he's staring at his, I don't know, right off the bat, we're kind of weird. He's, like, watching Kaylin sleep, and his inner monologue sounds just like Richard to me.
Maybe a bit.
Like, but that first page.
Whatever, we could always hand-wave that with, like, Richard's been so influenced by his mentor, Zedd. That's why they think alike. Like, they even, like, say that.
Yeah, we can. It's weird, but we can. Chases off somewhere.
He's keeping watch somewhere.
He's doing something somewhere.
Kaylin's asleep, and
Zedd is ruminating.
So he is, okay, let's give Terry some credit. We were like, shouldn't Zedd be so concerned about all of these things? He's concerned.
Yeah, but he comes to no wizardly conclusions.
He does not. And I was like, yeah, again, I just think that if enemy webs and, like, changing the way people look, magic is abound in this world, Zedd should be privy to it.
He's a wizard of the First Order. He's got to think in webs, but he don't be thinking in webs right now.
No, and then I was like, honestly, if I went to the like, say I'm not a wizard of the First, I'm me, and I just read this much information about the Midlands.
Yeah.
If I entered the Midlands for a quest that was not even like, it was just like go fetch a magical fruit, an orgasm fruit, if you will, and come home, I would be like, I think we should all have like code words or code like signals to prove who we are to one another because magic exists.
Sure, yeah.
Right? And I don't, they didn't.
Old John running around.
That's
you never know.
Exactly,
These
though.
people can just shapeshift like it's nothing. Shoda's just like, she's returning your mom to you, like.
A return.
So,
anyway, that was just a thought I had. So, yeah, he's thinking about he's such a useless wizard because the world's falling apart. He doesn't even know what to do. And he shouldn't even be going to Dahara anyway, but he has to save Richard.
Yeah.
And he thinks about Darkenral showing up. And it was, quote, bizarre in the extreme.
Oh, I quoted that too, yeah.
Which I thought, but you wanted him to think that, and he thought that.
Sure. He has to. There's no... Yeah, all right. Why did he think it was so bizarre? Let's get his...
Well, he thinks like, oh, it's weird that he didn't try to kill me because I killed his dad and tortured him with...
And I'm still unsure. Does anyone know who Zedd is yet? Or is his web still up?
I have no...
It's unclear. Keep going.
He's like, how did Darkenral get the sword? And then there's like this thing where he's like, oh, it's so stupid of me to try to use wizard's pain on Darkenral when he like touched his neck, because those with the gift who had survived the test of pain could survive the touch. Okay, so we're like hinting, oh, Richard.
It's giving Fire Swamp. I just hate the name.
The test of pain.
I want to die. I gave him the touch of pain, but he survived the test of pain.
No, literally.
First off, Wizard of the First Order. Pain. Wizard of the First fucking Order. Yeah, you gotta know the guy who's better than you at magic can survive the thing.
Well, he does know. He's saying...
Then you shouldn't have done it. You should have done anything else. Dust cloud magic. I don't know anything else.
Whatever.
No, not whatever.
No, you're
because
right. It was just
it is a stupid
whatever.
Fucking trick. Because, oh, look how much Richard's grown. His BDSM mommy fucking leveled him up to wizard power. And that's all it is. And then we're calling it the wizard's pain. Like, it's so lazy. I am tired and embarrassed for him.
The Wizard's
The
Bane.
Wizard's Bane.
The Test of Pain.
This is like my like rough draft.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, pain. And I'm
No,
just like,
honestly, that's like what I would put in. I do this while I'm writing. I'll like put things like that in brackets, and
Yeah.
I'll be like, if it's in a bracket, that means I gotta come up with a name for
exactly.
it later.
Yeah, and I will, of course. No, and then it's like, but like Terry was like, I don't know, books due at midnight, submit. Like that's how it feels.
No, but the truth of the matter is,
The truth.
and since we care about that so much, let's be real. It didn't like he read this and was like, "There's enough people in the world who don't give a flying fuck about those things."
You're right. That's
and
true.
I'm publishing my book for them. They're gonna like it, and he's right. They like it. They liked it. It didn't bother them.
New York Times bestseller.
It didn't bother them.
New York Times bestseller.
We're annoying.
I know we're annoying. I know we're annoying.
But, like-
I know.
I'm just saying. So, like,
But-
in a way, he's right.
No, he's not right. If you say he's right,
Okay.
he was.
He didn't. He said there's plenty of people who think this is good enough. Their brains aren't bothered by it.
He was right about that.
He was.
All right.
He's like upset about that Kaylin almost died, but he is like, hey, why did he even like want to kill her with the sword? He could have just killed all of us like in 3 seconds not using a sword.
Great question.
And then Zedd brings up that, oh my god, I can't believe he made the blade turn white, and which I said he should have been shooketh by, and he makes it clear he was in fact shooketh by it.
He was.
And
as he should have been.
he's like freaked out because he's like, oh, the prophecies talk about the person who's going to turn the sword white, and the fact that it is Darkenral who these prophecies are talking about is a terrible, terrible thing, right? So yeah, I wrote this because I didn't know if there was anything in here. So it says, the veil, the prophecies called it. The veil between the world of life and the underworld. If the veil was torn by the magic of Orden through an agent, the prophecies foretold, only the one who had turned the sword of truth white could restore it. Unless he was able to, the underworld would be loosed on the worlds of the living.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a lot of problems here. Seems like it's setting up book 2.
Yeah,
or something.
kind of. I don't know,
But we are not even close to end. Well, no, we are very close on.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, to finishing book 1. The bigger problem being, who cares if he slices a hole in the underworld if he controls all life? The boxes of Orden, I guess because he's already written off
Well, I guess
that
I'm
he has all
confused.
3 boxes. There's so many problems here.
confused.
One,
I don't know.
Zedd, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you erected the boundaries in the first place, bringing the underworld up in between the land of the living. So, like, you're fucking around with shit you don't understand. And it doesn't sound any worse inherently than whatever this prophecy is. At least to my stupid non-Wizard of the First Order brain. And just my second problem is I just hate this use of prophecy. It is terrible. You gotta give me something to work with. Prophecies are only good when you give them to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like,
You can't just constantly every other chapter be like, oh, prophecy spoke of this thing, and then when we get to it, be like, prophecies also warned us about this thing. And he will do that for books now.
The only way you can get away with that is, like, you gotta be, like, a stylistic savant.
Sure. There's someone
whose
who could
characters are coming across, like, mystical oracles of Delphi. And, like,
that's fine.
you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
fine.
whatever. I can think of a way you could do it, but, like, this is whatever. It's never leaving an impression on me. I'm never being like, the prophecies, oh, I'm thinking about them. Oh, that was cool when he told me. I'm always just like, okay, sure.
And it's like, who wrote it? When was it written? And it's always just like plain English. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what could that? It can only mean 1 or 2 things, Zedd.
Yeah. Zedd's worrying specifically about the word agent in the prophecy, and he's saying that means that Darkenral is working for an agent of the underworld.
Yeah.
But,
Which
like,
is
he's-
that inherently worse than Darkenral
No,
just
I
taking
don't
over
even.
life
I'm like,
in and of himself?
But it's also not right. That's not true because the prophecy's not about Darkenral.
It's not about Darkenral. I think because the Keeper, the devil or whatever is going to be the thing. It's circumventing the entire climax of your own problem here. It's saying, surely after we solve the Darkenral issue, this will now be an issue.
I don't know why. Something about the way it's phrased made me think all of these things would be incredibly relevant if and only if Dargan Rahl is the one who turned the sword white. I guess I'm like, if this is going to be happening no matter who turned the sword white, you should have been worrying about it before you saw him with the white sword.
Correct.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's
well,
a
it's
problem.
acting like once we saw him with the white sword, all of a sudden we were like, well, if Dargan Rahl turned the sword white, now this cascade of problems arises. And I'm like, well,
no. It's these cascade of problems are going to happen,
even if it's not Dargan Rahl.
And we need someone who turns the sword white to fix them. And if it's Dargan Rahl, that's a problem because he probably won't do it.
Well, what I'll say is, as he's dwelling on this problem, he does do what I complained about last chapter. He finally, somebody thinks, actually, we would all be better off dead than alive while that shit goes down.
Okay.
Which is what I've been saying. Why is nobody thinking that?
Well, true, but also, would you, if the underworld is leaking into the world of the living, you dying would just mean you leak back into the world of the living?
I don't know that part of this.
If the underworld's a big balloon and you pop it and it starts leaking, and you're like, well, if I jump into the balloon, no, you're just going to come back out. Like, I don't know, there's no escape then.
I don't know what the underworld is comprised of. Like,
and you never will.
I'm not sure how that's going to function.
There's shadow things. There's the ghost of only Zedd's parents. There's hardhounds.
There's the tentacle monster. I'm thinking about the tentacle monster in the cave, and then I was like, oh, there was that tentacle monster that
zapped him. Yeah.
Whatever that was.
Of course we doubled that. Of course we did. I thought we had one original piece.
No. What was that?
Zapped Zedd, and then we don't know what it was.
Okay.
It was something from the underworld.
Well, anywho, I thought it was interesting.
Which have bones? Addie had underworld beast bones. These things have bones?
Some.
The shadow things are just dropping bones? Who's
I was thinking more like the
Hardhounds have bones.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Like things
That's
like
fine.
that.
No, I accept that.
I just thought it was interesting that Zedd came to that conclusion. I just don't understand, again, why everybody's so keen to be like, yeah, we'll live in the Dargan Rahl, like, control
Apocalypse.
world.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, all right. While they're, like, again, the biggest unalive fans in the world. But Zedd, he's thinking... He's
joining up. Yeah.
I'm thinking. Zedd is watching Kaylin sleep, and he's dwelling on how she's the last confessor created by the old wizards, and he feels sad. I thought that was nice. I wish we got more stuff like that.
Agreed.
Where I was like, yeah, that would be really emotional.
Yeah, you would be sad.
She would be such a, like, beautiful, sad little figure for you.
Yeah.
The book would have a lot more heart and emotionality if we really, like, dug into that sort of stuff, but, like, we really just rarely do.
No, we dig into other things.
So
debatably more important.
Zedd finally sits up really suddenly, and he's like, oh my god, it's so light out. Chase should be back by now. And he touches Kaylin's forehead and, like, wakes her up with magic. And she wakes up. She's like, oh my god, what's wrong? And then he explains Chase isn't back. And she's like, maybe he just fell asleep on his watch. Maybe. And then he's like, no, the horses are missing too. Yeah. Then she says, well, can you, like, magically locate him? So Zedd does his thing where he, like, jumps into your brain. And he says, like, yeah, and there's others around him that are touched by the underworld. I'm pointing that out because I know Frank has a problem with this later on.
I do. Actually, that's not the first time. It gets pointed out again.
Yes.
Then, yeah.
So Zedd says there is people touched by the underworld around Chase. That's bad. Right as Zedd gets up, Chase is thrown into the center of the camp by 4 big men. Chase's arms are tied behind his back. He's covered in blood. And one of those men is Demmin Nass.
No!
The man of whom there is nothing to like.
No, so. I think we don't like him so much that we should be really mean to him.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. I'm hoping we get really, really personal with him, and, like, we're mean in the absolutely most just digging in sort of way. That's what I hope.
Right. Well, Terry really went out of his way to set him up in such a fashion that doing that, you cannot reasonably take issue with it.
No.
Right?
No.
How could you?
This is like the rest of this becomes like a political cartoon for, like, don't we hate pedophiles?
Yeah, we're just like,
And it's like,
yeah, I didn't even need to think about it. I didn't need
a creative exercise to be like, how much do you hate these guys?
It's fun. Yeah, it does feel very like somebody's like just ultimate like revenge fantasy.
Yeah.
And there's thoughts in there that I get. Like, I get it. I get wanting to say certain things and challenge the pedophile in a certain way.
Yeah.
But you are just like, you just made this character to unleash this torrent at him. That's like his only function.
Absolutely.
He doesn't really have a story function. He has like a cathartic.
He's like a parable audience. For why not to be a pedophile. Like that. He's just, that's it. And it's like, let me tell you the story about this pedophile I knew. And then it's like, and when we put him in the dunk tank with sharks and
like,
he got all his fingers bitten off one by one and we laughed and we poured lemon juice in the shark tank after that.
Did you notice they always write Demmin Nass? He's never just Demmin. What is that? I was like, he's the only person named Demmin. It's a very specific name. You don't need to keep telling me his last name.
He thought it was like a Bond villain. Like, it's so cool. Demmin Nass.
Every time.
What a detestable piece of shit. Like, Demmin Nass.
I noticed it when I was writing my notes because I kept feeling, why is it the full name every time?
Well, it's Dark and Raw. Demmin Nass.
But we call him Master Raw.
Yeah, Father Raw.
I guess we don't call him Darkin. So Demmin is here for his he's finally here to fulfill the entire purpose of his existence, really.
Yes.
Which is for this to happen to him.
His becoming, if you will.
So Kaylin recognizes him and he says, you've heard of me.
Yeah.
He
like
really
a Bond
is
villain.
a super villain.
He's just he might as well have a twirling mustache instead of whatever the fuck his hair is. I can barely picture this shit.
It's black and it's got
it's blonde with
it's
spiky
opposite?
Blonde hair with a black lightning bolt. Like, what do you? And he cries blood and he rapes little boys. Like, what are you talking about?
It's so hard not to laugh.
It's so stupid.
Well, yeah. You've heard of me. In this scene, he comes across so like larger than life in the way he perceives himself, in the way he's engaging.
Badness,
and I'm like, he hasn't even really he doesn't act like this. I get it because it's like, when he's with Dark and Raw, he's reduced because he can't supersede him. But I am kind of like, I would have liked to have seen him sort of be in this way with this flair in some capacity before this moment, because it felt like
Terry just puts this flair on anyone, and like the characterization be damned sometimes.
Yeah, like the court artist kind of had this vibe.
He did,
like,
and like Demmin had like Igor vibes, and now he's like Mr. Like, Mr. Bond. What the fuck is that accent?
Yeah, it's just weird. It like feels so funny. It almost feels like sorry, somebody's like pulling up next to the house.
They're backing into their driveway.
They're running their car into the house.
It's Demmin.
It's like they act like it's like a play, and they're like, spotlights on me, like I know how to act, and like they just get this new like personality for like the scene and the purpose of the scene. I don't know, it's just kind of like sticks out. I was just like, wow, he's such a villain, he's such a character here.
What a diva.
Yeah, exactly. So then he says to Kaylin, Demmin says, I've certainly heard of you. Your friend here, Chase, has killed 5 of my best men. I'll execute him later after the festivities.
So there's 2 quads plus Demmin, and Chase takes out 5 by himself.
They go out of their way to say that all the quad members are like significantly bigger than Chase. And so, of course.
Well, his morality more than makes up for the size difference.
That's how that works.
That's how it works here. Whatever.
It's fine.
He's cool. I get it. I don't know.
Yeah, we start right out the gate. Demmin talking about chasing. I'd like him to have the enjoyment of watching what we do to you. Right away, you're like, okay, I see where we're going. So all the men come out of the woods. They are all blonde and blue-eyed and very muscled.
And he mentions their blue eyes like 4 or 5 times. He's like, they're piercing blue eyes. I saw all their blue eyes coming at me. Them and their blue eyes looking at me.
What do we think of that?
Coming out of the woods with their blue eyes, like the ocean. Oh, God. Blue. They're so blue.
Yeah.
He, like, hypes it up.
Yeah.
Just to tell you, I guess they're Aryan, so this is a problem. You get Zedd now. Zedd's starting to cook a little. Zedd's like, Zedd's starting to. No, I don't like. No, I do not like Zedek Zul'Zarandar, Wizard of the First Order. I don't like his plan here at all. I don't like how wild and rowdy he gets seeing all these cocky men coming out of the woods.
Well, he gets mad because their weapons are away, and he's like, "Oh my God, they're so overconfident. Fuck them.
They're not even afraid of me, and that's bothering me. Are you kidding me, Zedd?"
Well, he gets, it's kind of sweet. He says he knows what quads do to confessors, and he's not going to let that happen to Kaelin for as long as he's alive. That's a noble
so he
thought.
Uses no brain cell.
Kaelin asks Demmin where Richard is and what Darkenrahl has done to him, and Demmin says, that's Master Rawl's business, and then Kaelin says, tell me, and then he says, you have more important things to worry about. You're about to give my men a very good time. And so then it says Zedd decided it was time to stop this before something more happened. And like at this point, I'm really paraphrasing. Like they're going back and forth for a while and Demmin just keeps being like, we're gonna rape you. We're gonna rape you. And you're like, yes, what are you waiting for? Like, what do you mean?
Before any of this gets out of hand.
Time to stop this. It's been time. It's been time. The second they walked out of the woods, it was time.
He wanted to hear his piece, Maybe he had a good thing to say there.
I know you really want to talk about this.
Oh, yeah. Well, before he makes this decision, right?
Yeah.
To punish these young whippersnappers who are a little too cocky for his liking, he notes one more time that something about the underworld is on them. Now, you tell me, what's Zedd's track record with underworld stuff so far? Because I think he's 0-2, right? 0-2 at least.
Yeah.
The last time he had to get confessored out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like this week. So it's not like he's not doing good. So he knows these guys got a touch of the underworld on him. So what does Zedd do?
He throws...
No. Oh. He marshals the strongest paralysis web he can muster. Quote.
So what does that mean to you? What does that mean?
Okay. Now, going back to like when Darkenrahl, Richard, was attacking them, right? And I'm like, don't use the wizard's pane.
Yes.
Try something with splash damage for once. Okay. Do something.
Wait, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. My thing is, I think it's stupid because it's so plot convenient that because you're like, if
plot is very dubious for what this is.
Doesn't think that they have reflective bounce magic. If he thinks they have that, then he shouldn't be sending anything at them. He obviously doesn't think it's going to bounce back, right? Whether he should think that or not. For whatever reason,
he can't even consider that possibility.
He obviously doesn't think that because then this would be a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't think it's going to bounce back, why is he not sending a murder spell, a fireball? Why is he not trying to kill them? Of course he only sent the paralysis spell because then it can bounce back and Zedd won't actually be that hurt.
Not only will he not be hurt or die, which doesn't make any sense, he will then be forced to watch the next scene, which is crazy. Especially because you spent the whole first part of the chapter, because Terry double-doubles, saying how upset he was just having to watch Darkenrahl do whatever he did with Kaelin just now. So, he sends the strongest paralysis web that he can muster. Ricochets 4 times back at him. And he is stuck like a stone.
Yeah. And then he says he realizes they're protected by an underworld spell. It's like, but I feel like you knew that.
You felt a lot of underworld on them.
They're protected by an underworld spell that he, quote, hadn't been able to see. But you definitely did, though.
You sensed it.
You did, though.
Even if you couldn't see the exact spell.
You said it.
This is why, like, wizards, in my mind, are some of the smartest folk around, right? And you know what smart people do?
And he's the number one of the smart people.
That's what I'm trying to say. I feel like he's lying at this point. Like he's just, this dude got his, like, wizard degree in, like, a cookbook. So, wouldn't you test something?
Yeah, that would be wise.
Wouldn't you throw the weakest paralysis spell you got at one of the guys to see what happens?
Just send a color, like a hair color
throw a
changing
snowball spell.
Yeah,
and just
see what happens.
Yeah, color change. That's pretty good. Like, oh, I have a purple afro now.
Oh shoot, my hair's purple. Okay, never mind.
And then you know what you do? You make a tree fall on them because that's not a spell. You know what I mean?
Honestly, start there.
Start there.
But
throw a fireball directly up and have it just explode.
My issue is that you cannot have it both ways. It's one or the other. He either had no clue it was going to ricochet back, at which point there just is... Why would you have not just tried to kill them? Why are you paralyzing them? And then
you nuked a gar as soon as you saw it. Wouldn't these the biggest rapists around and you're like, this girl's like my daughter, I love her so much, I wish I could help her. Right now is the time that you go
yeah,
with your magic gun. But no, paralysis web.
I don't know.
And now he is forced to watch the
conveniently
preceding scenes.
Here he is. So Kaylin puts her hand out. She touches Demmin's chest. She's obviously trying to confess him, and her power does not go off.
Do we like this? Does it make any sense that someone can block confessor power?
I feel like I know so little about how this is supposed to work.
It's underworld shields.
I can't say.
How come she didn't confess herself? Why didn't it work like that? Like Zedd's magic bounced back.
I thought that too. I was like, maybe you can't confess yourself. Can confessors confess other confessors? So then Demmin breaks Kaylin's arm. She falls to the ground. And then, she is a little Spitfire. She is really, on her cool girl shit this whole chapter. She jumps right back up with her broken arm with a knife in the other hand. And then Demmin grabs her hair and he's holding her back. And she stabs the arm that's holding her. Yep. He pulls the knife out, takes it out of her hand, and then he throws it into a tree.
Bond villain.
At
a distance, just
some of this early fight stuff I thought was kind of good. I could picture it really well. It had a cool action movie sort of flow to it.
I agree.
He hits her across the face. She's kicking and screaming and going nuts. Yeah. And the other three guys are coming in to seal the deal here. Here's where we get weird with it.
I wrote in all caps, here's where the weird begins.
Well, there you go. I didn't know that.
Well.
Okay, so then Demmin says, I'm sorry, Mother Confessor. I'm afraid you're not my type.
Said the pedophile.
But not to worry. These fellows here will only be too happy to do the honors. Try to wiggle your bottom, though. I'll enjoy much of it.
So
there's so much to unpack in that statement.
Would you like to start?
It's so hard to know where to start.
Try to wiggle your bottom, though.
First of all, wait, I love that.
I'll enjoy that much.
I love that he uses the word bottom in this situation. He doesn't say ass. He does it bottom.
Bottom.
Which I think probably is some sort of, or maybe some sort of intentional, he has some sort of immature sexuality mind or something.
Okay.
He's using childlike language. I don't really know what to make of the, I think it comes up more than once, assertion that pedophiles love asses. What does that mean?
I don't know. So now we have two avenues here we need to discuss things from. Demmin is a pedophile.
Yeah.
And now we're implying that Demmin is also a homosexual pedophile.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Has he been from the beginning? He only rapes little
boys.
Right.
And not little
I know.
girls.
And that starts to feel weird.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does. So now he only wants to see her bottom wiggle.
Right, but she's an adult and you like little boys. Why do you care about her ass? What does that even mean?
He'll like that much.
What does that mean? Why? Pedophiles, I just don't think pedophiles...
It's mistaking everything. It's like, pedophiles don't have... First off, pedophiles aren't like Bond villain cool commanders in your army, usually. And then they're also not... Well, I don't know.
I can't say, because like, honestly, like, they be priests, they be all over the place.
True.
In some ways, they really are.
No, I'm not saying they can't be commanders in the army. I'm saying they're not commanders in the army that like... Well, I don't know. I actually...
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that that's true.
Okay, yeah.
If they're commanders in the army, I don't know that they go out with their men who are not pedophiles and are like,
this is what
you guys are all like normal guys. Well, I guess they're not normal guys. They're big rapist guys.
Yes.
But like, you're like, you guys like fucking women, and I'll keep talking out loud about
the little boys
like,
that I get with.
Are you telling everyone like that? Like, you're boasting about it like that? I don't know. I guess culturally it depends.
I guess it depends culturally.
I really would need to see like some sort of cultural sense of like, how do Daharans feel about pedophilia? Is it accepted? Do they hate it? How do they feel about rape? How do they feel about all of these things? To know why he would be acting like this in front of everybody.
Like, knowing where we're going? I don't think so.
So they don't
love rape and they don't love pedophilia.
They don't?
No, because like Richard's gonna be Lord Rahl after this book. Because he's Dark and Rahl's son or whatever. So like, Terry would never have the whole country love pedophilia and rape.
No, of course.
Because that's the good people now after he liberates them.
But you're like, does this like... Where'd this come from?
I guess it's just Demmin.
But then it's weird to be boasting without being like, oh, my men won't respect me. My men... I don't know. I guess they're saying like they're so close together that if you're a guy who like is okay raping women, you won't necessarily have that much trouble.
And I think don't know that I agree with that fully.
I think there's probably like some people that's true of, and then there's other people that like that's not true of. Yeah, for sure. I'm like, how do these men feel about it?
Yeah, Terry can't help but like when he makes people bad, he can't help but be like, they're actually all demonic. Yeah, and they all like the worst of things. Yeah, and it's like, that's not what real people are like.
I mean, I guess some people wade into that ocean.
I just feel like warlordy type rapist dominator soldier men are not hanging with the pedos and being like, we like all the bad shit.
I don't know.
I just can't feel like... Well, I guess Terry's saying, well, what if they did?
Well, what if?
Well, what if they all got along?
I could see how he's making a parallel, right? Like, he's being like, the desire to be sexually... get off on this power disparity in a real sense where like you're totally in control, you're being bad, this person doesn't want it, whatever. Like, he's saying like these things have something in common, and like they do,
and of course they do.
I feel like we got kind of off topic because I was really focused on the bottom.
All right, yeah, well, let's get back to the bottom.
I don't know that if I met a pedophile and was talking to them and I was like, I don't know. It's like, it's specifically like evoking this paraphilic sort of sexuality.
Yeah.
Which, in a sense, I get, because things like this sometimes they're usually like closely related to paraphilia. It's not saying that all paraphilias mean you're like a pedophile or a rapist. Obviously not. But, and I guess I should define paraphilia.
Yes.
Paraphilia is so annoying. People give it such different definitions. This is saying a condition characterized by abnormal sexual desires, typically involving extreme or dangerous activities. So like, pedophilia, usually by that definition, is a paraphilia. Paraphilia, I think, is like way actually broader than that. This is saying, as is how my understanding of it is, an experience of recurring or intense sexual arousal to atypical objects, places, situations, behaviors, or individuals. It has been defined as a sexual interest in anything other than a legally consenting human partner. But like, even to the extent that like paraphilias usually will be like, I am like sexually attracted to like balloons, right? Like, it's my sexual desire is usually very...
You're sexualizing a thing that's not
another sexual
traditional
partner.
Sexual intercourse or relations with
another adult.
Pedophiles
usually have paraphilias for the childness,
yes,
not
of course.
their ass. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do. And then
it's weird. Okay.
What?
It I don't like it, but I see what he's doing logically. He's being like, because I was like, you could have this scene where he's just okay with these guys raping her. He's like, I just don't care. I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah.
And not have him engaged in it.
Sure.
Erotically in any way. What Terry's trying to do is really lean into the fact that so much of the appeal and attraction towards pedophilia is that element of control and domination.
Yes.
And I'm saying this is derogative domination, not the fun one. I guess he's trying to be see, he could still kind of get off to some of it, but I think he should be, I don't know. It's weird that it's focused on her ass.
It is. I also, now that we've talked about it enough, I kind of think that it's more of it's kind of just a mind tactic a little bit. He's just trying to scare her more. I don't even know
if think?
I don't he might do it. He might get aroused by her struggle and all that in the same way, because you're saying relationally.
Yeah.
Rape of a woman in this environment is similar to his rape of children or whatever. Yeah, is it just mind games? Is he just trying to shame her more and make her more ew, so that it's even worse for her?
So Demmin throws her over to the men. They're shoving her around, they're hitting her, they're spinning her until she's dizzy and falling over. She tries to swing at them and she misses because she's dizzy. They all laugh at her. It's hard. It feels I honestly can't even imagine it having any impact, scenes like this continuously throughout the book, because already one scene of it, I'm the way you're doing it is so numbing that I can't have much of an emotional reaction to it.
Fair enough.
It feels, it doesn't, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't feel personal to these characters.
No.
It just feels even just throwing her over and the way they're engaging with her just feels just the most bare bones, this is what a bad group of guys would do. This is what, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't feel grounded the way somebody else could take the scene and make you really oh no.
I agree.
I don't know how to explain it.
This is kind of what's her name? Keira Knightley in Pirates, when she's getting passed around between all the ghoul pirates.
Right,
and you're
exactly.
None of those ghoul pirates matter. It's just all
they?
about look how scary they're being to the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. This is kind of just this generic tussling.
Exactly. It feels super generic to me. I'm just kind of the actions they're taking feel really plucked out of how to write a rape scene 101. You were copy paste. That's what they're doing that.
The bad book. Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't feel a whole lot. Obviously, I don't like the idea of it in real life. I don't like it happening even to Kaylin, because it's I like her character, but I'm kind of just okay.
But we get it, and we get a lot of it. So
yeah, they keep hurting her. They're punching her. They're pulling her clothes off. Zedd's paralyzed, and he's stuck watching it, and he's really upset. And then it says, am I forgetting something? It says painful memories of having seen this before overlaid themselves on the reality of what was happening now. He couldn't breathe with the pain of those memories. Is he just talking about in his life seeing quads get confessors, or are we referencing something specific?
His wife was killed by a quad.
Oh, so they just do this all.
But I don't think did he see that? I don't.
Also, I guess, unless his wife was a confessor. In my brain, I
actually don't know. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know.
Quads only do this to I assume quads do this to confessors because they have a specific reason why they take this approach. And then I could see a culture of bad guys, in the army building up some this is how we have fun with it because we got to do it
Sure.
Okay. I guess I see it. But then I'm okay, I guess then the implication is that they are so addicted to doing that any woman, even not a confessor, they do this to. So they're just roving bands of people who love to rape together.
That is what I am being led to believe. Yeah.
So Zedd's wife, this happened to just because?
I don't know that. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure his wife was killed by a quad. But I don't know if she was a confessor. I don't know if quads just be doing this. I don't know.
My brain is so like, if you want me to buy into a world where there are just a bunch of roving
tag team raper men.
Yeah, like who like have like an official title and and they like just can't stop doing that all the time. I need a lot of buildup, a lot of buy-in, a lot of complexity where I start to go like, it's a horrifying but intriguing thing to consider the repercussions.
If you want me to consider it realistically, because you're depicting it realistically, it should be grounded.
Yeah.
And it requires a lot of setup to ground it. Terry instead did this weird thing where he's not grounding it. He's just throwing the hypothetical kind of at you. Of like, just assume these cookie cutter bad men are doing this bad thing. And you're like, I don't want to.
Right. It's
and
like,
you haven't proven that I should.
I have trouble because it's like, it is so unpleasant and he has gone so extreme with it that I'm like, I don't know, in my brain, to want to put up with going through all of that mentally, it needs to feel earned in some way, and it needs to feel like it will net me some sort of interesting thought and
agreed.
Emotional exploration. Where like here, I'm like, you're asking me to buy in and go through so much for what? Because like at the end of the day, it just comes down to, that's a crazy idea and they're really bad, right? And I'm like, I just don't really want to dwell on it in this much detail when I'm not getting anything back.
Yes, agreed.
You know, like from the experience. Like I'm not, even if the thing I get back is some sort of negative,
like bad
emotional journey or something. I just don't, I'm not like, why? I don't feel like you're giving me enough to make me do this. There's like a book, I'm sure a book like this exists, where like you'd read it and you'd just be like, it's like somebody just getting like horribly tortured, right?
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, it wasn't saying much.
Yeah.
I don't really know it's just descriptions of torture.
Yeah.
Right? I'd be like, okay, well, I don't want to read that so much. But then like, I could read like Hellraiser, right?
Sure. Yeah, like that's a good one. Yeah.
You know, it's not called Hellraiser.
The Hellbound Heart?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which, like, also has, like, you see people going through really terrible being eternally tortured is, like, a big part of the story.
It's a theme, yeah.
It is. Yeah. But then you're like, oh, it's in this box of thought and philosophy and intricate, interesting, right? So I'm like, yeah, for sure, I'll read about somebody being tortured there. I get it because it's like, okay, Kaylin, we care about Kaylin, so okay, it gets like a point towards not just being totally nothing, but
it's like you said, the more points you start putting on the board, the more the scaled up negative things feel couched, right?
Yeah.
And when you're like, it's Kaylin, we like her, and
these guys,
these
for
guys,
some reason,
because they're bad, and it's like, I don't have a lot of points. This is gonna hurt.
Yeah, like
I don't want all this.
Like again, if you really did, it's like not that type of book, so like I can't expect it. But if I did have this sense of like, oh, I like really understand the moral philosophy and the cultural implications of a quad. Sure. And these two things now that I have some sort of buy-in are meeting and I can like dwell on it.
Of like, philosophy.
Yeah, I would be kind like, okay, I'm certainly more open and interested in seeing how it plays out with the characters. But like here,
it is just black and white. It's just, these are bad men doing bad thing. Read the bad thing in 6 pages
and think
of
it's
detail
bad
and think it's bad. I thought it was bad before I got here.
Exactly. Like, I don't know what is the takeaway. I was just like, sorry to Kaylin.
Literally, bad thing happens to woman, and it's like, get ready for 5 more pages.
Okay, so maybe Zedd was referring to his wife getting quadded.
Maybe.
So Zedd's trying as hard as he can to access some power or spell, but he can't do anything, and he's crying, and
it's interesting. He does mention he wishes he could like give his life force, and I'm like, because that is sweet wizard's fire that we did earlier with Geller. Geller. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I guess his paralysis spell was so strong that he can't even do that. Well, he got it reflected back
4 times.
Yeah, you're right. The strongest web.
I mean, whatever. It does serve to reinforce, like, how good Zedd is. Like, you do believe that how badly he wants to, like, do anything to make this stop. Okay, I'm trying to give it, like, you know, here are the couple of benefits. And I get it in the sense also, like, of where we're going to go for the second half of the chapter. Like, it serves as, like, this reinforcing element to how intense Kalen's power and reaction becomes.
True.
So, like, I get that part of it. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not 100% against it, even Terry's style. I don't know how to explain it. Like, if throughout the book, I'm getting a sense that, like, this sort of stuff really has an impact on, like, how Kalen feels about things and makes choices and engages with these people. Okay, maybe something. Yeah, there's also the weirdness of, like, how Richard's torture and sexual assault over his long period of time is treated versus this.
Yeah.
I find it kind of weird. I find it weird how much empathy we offer
to Jenna and Richard through his ordeal. Versus, like how quick and dirty Kalen's version is.
I don't know. We're just so willing to, like, hand wave all of that with Denna.
Yeah.
And, like, we're obviously
never going to bring even, like, 1% of that thought process over here. And I'm like, they are very different. Of course.
Context totally does matter, but...
I'm kind of like, though, like, what if Demmin wasn't a pedophile? Say he was just a rapist.
Yeah.
These scenes are weird now because, like, that's what Denna was doing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is what Richard went
Richard
through...
wasn't getting penetrated, even though he might have been. I don't know.
I feel like it was implied that he was.
Constance definitely wanted to, but...
No, with Denna, like, I feel like they're one of those, like, blackout... scenes towards the end of the chapter. I feel like the implication was that he actually was. So it's like, I find it weird.
It's weird. And it's like almost weird in a like classically misogynistic sort of way of just being like, yeah, but it's not so bad what happens to a guy, right?
Well, that's the opposite. It's like misandrist almost. Right? Because we're being like, buck up, buddy, forgiver. Like,
okay, you're right. Yeah. Wow, it's misandry. Wow.
And then, like, with Kalen, we're like, oh my god,
sweet baby angel guy.
I mean, valid, but also, I suppose if you put Kalen in the Mordsith situation, we probably would have treated it similarly. It gets less about it being Kalen and Richard, I think, and more about the external person
of Denna versus
the Quad and Demmin. Yeah, do you get what I mean? Like, I feel like I could have even seen Terry writing it.
Yeah, wait. Let's do a thought experiment. A true inversion right now. Kalen got captured by Denna, and Richard now will get raped by Demmin.
I think it would go the same way on both sides, or very close. So it's more who the person is doing it than it is who's getting it.
So if Richard had been captured by Constance this whole time, who was apparently just so bad,
then we would
feel just as negatively, or at least somewhat similarly negatively about both of them, about Demmin and Constance. But Denna is the key. Is Denna really so redeemable?
I don't know. I didn't think she was that redeemable.
I don't understand.
Like, love her, but like also not.
Yeah, no. In an actual in-world morality sort of way, she's terrible.
Yeah.
But why? And if Kalen's getting like dommed up every day by Denna, I'm going to enjoy the chapters. It's going to be a fun time and all that. But like, why at the end of the day is it any better?
Especially when you bring all the like Princess Violet stuff into it. Like, there's more parallels with Demmin and Denna than maybe one wants.
Yeah, what are we doing?
It's just weird. I don't know.
Someone, Ajax, come on. Write a dissertation on this shit. Why does Denna's pedophilia get forgiven?
Well, okay, listen. It's obviously different. It's obviously different. Right?
Denna didn't harm anyone else. This stupid
that's how they be acting, though.
Demmin, however, did.
Well, Demmin was maybe not great to a friend, and Denna would never do that.
Probably true.
Okay, so here we go. We're getting into the bad part now. Two of the men are holding Kaylin. The third guy is pulling down his pants. Kaylin's like going nuts, trying to get out of it. And then like she's going so crazy that Zedd thinks that if her arm weren't broken, they actually might not have been able to hold onto her. I do like her like agency throughout the whole scene. She really does. And not to say that I would judge Kaylin in any capacity if she were to just go to be quiet. But
cool if the heroine has to go through this. Yeah. That she gets to kick so much ass and be so fucking like untamable and like I like her being like a literal feral beast. Yeah, because this is absolutely calls for it. And she does it well.
And like, it adds something to her character, I think. I don't really know how to describe it, but it adds a rounding out of sorts to her character, knowing she has this level of just like animalistic
indomitability.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say that. So the quad guy, he's like kissing her, he's like biting her neck, and he tells the guys holding her to put her down on the ground, and then Kaylin just knees him in the groin. And again, like just like at every step of the way, she makes it really difficult for them, which okay, we like that. And then the other guys are laughing at that guy
because they're just even mean to each other.
Exactly.
They're like,
so then he like punches Kaylin and her lips bleeding. So then this is the highlight of this part of the chapter for me. Absolutely. Chase, with his arms still tied behind his back, just runs at the guy that she just kicked in the groin. And they both fall over. The guy, because he has his pants down, he trips over his pants. And this is crazy.
Chase worms his way up.
He clamps his thighs around this dude's neck with the hands behind his back and does like a fucking alligator roll over onto his side and just like cracks his neck. That's very cool.
It's very cool. And now Chase has killed 6 out of 8 men.
That shit was pretty sick.
It's sick. It's absolutely sick.
Wow.
There's like unstoppable. Chase is just like, you give me 5 minutes to recover and I'm coming for your ass.
I like Terry's creativity in coming up with some like crazy but cool way for Chase. I don't know. I was like, that was kind of impressive. I could picture it. It was a cool scene. Especially so like I get his temptation to use it because it's like it has heightened it so much that you are like rooting so hard for Chase in like a situation like that. You're like, oh my God. And you understand why they're being driven to such
absolutely
extremes of behavior.
He's trying his body like to the extremes.
Demmin then kicks him in the ribs and the head, and then Chase passes out. Then from out of nowhere comes a wolf.
And soon to return to nowhere.
He's attacking Demmin. They're wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, a knife. Demmin has a knife. Kaylin screams, no, Brophy, get away. It's too late. Demmin stabs Brophy.
He stabs Brophy like 100 times or something.
I can't say I care.
I care so much in the sense that it's like Terry has done so little world building, and despite describing this man and his trials and his hot little wife at home with her ass, and then you just kill him off in like what 1 second.
But he feels like he existed to die in this sort of fashion, right? Like
in a way, he's a sacrificial wolf or whatever. It would have made sense to have had Chase kill 4 of the quad members before coming in here, and then
at least let
getting
Brophy
that guy and letting Brophy get one of the quad members.
I agree. We could have given Brophy a win at the end.
Yeah, Brophy got nothing. He bit Demmin a couple of times.
I don't know why I was supposed to care about Brophy much, other than just being like, that sucks.
Yeah, my wolf friend.
I couldn't make myself care that much.
And the complexity of being like, this is a man who traded magical living artifacts.
Well, I really needed more clarification.
Who then got
that.
tried for pedophilia but didn't do it. But then was confessed, but as a reprieve, was transformed into a humanoid wolf. Uh-huh. Who then left his wolf family, and now we're dealing with the humanoid wolf-on-wolf yes. lovemaking, in which they've had multiple children. He left that poor wolf mother back
I do
in the
feel bad
den
for the family.
to then join Kaylin, who he still calls mistress, and that's weird. And then just to have him tag along, going, oh, and licking people's faces and stuff, to just immediately die is very weird.
He quite literally did nothing.
He did nothing. You came on this whole journey and just died. Like, was Terry just like, that's kind of funny? Like, no one ever just comes along and dies.
He did. He accomplished nothing.
He did nothing.
Why couldn't he?
Oh, wait, no, he killed that one hardhound in the beginning. That's it. He saved Richard once.
He did save Richard in the beginning, yeah.
And he did not help Kaylin now.
Yeah, why not? It seems rife for Brophy dying tragically while accomplishing something. Why did you not do that?
It's like an easy win, and you were like, no, he actually just fucking dies.
I don't know. Yeah, it's so weird.
It would have been almost as impactful as if, like, Kaylin goes into Kandar and, like, she's freaking out and the earth splits open and Brophy just fell in. Brophy, and the magma swallowed Brophy, no! We need, like, new ways for Brophy to die, like, every chapter going forward. Just, like, inconsequential ways.
I wish he wasn't just standing there. If only he had been 3 inches over.
The box of Orden falls off the table and just crushes Brophy's skull. He almost helped. Like, what have we...
I mean, he does, they do say, like, oh, Demmin looks hurt after, so sure. I guess it helped a little.
Now, is this book better for having Brophy?
No.
I think it kind of is, because it inserted, like, weirdness when we needed it.
Maybe you're right in that sense,
but
yeah.
This was the worst way to get rid of him.
You just really easily could have given him a better exit. Yeah. Are we ever going to get more, like, confessed human to animals around in the story?
I don't know.
Because I think introducing that whole concept, like Brophy and the whole idea of, like, confessing a person and then turning them into an animal and then they're different and whatever... You best be using that again for that to have...
For Brophy. Our brother at arms.
Actually, your shirt kind of has... It has a wolf.
It does.
With a man coming out. That's like...
I'm not saying...
Wait, stand up. Like, that, like, that's the tragedy of Brophy.
It is.
He just... There was a man in there.
Demmin Nass.
That's the anime.
That's the anime.
Okay, yeah. Whatever. So, I'm not surprised that he dies in this way. And again, you guys know how easily I cried. I cried about Shar, who had way less characterization than Brophy.
Shar is not a character.
And yet, not a single, even, like, welling of a tear.
An iota of...
During this.
Yeah. Well, couldn't
explain why. I don't know why, but it didn't do anything to me. Kaylin's crying out Brophy's name. Demmin gets up. Again, he's hurt and bleeding from their fight. He says, make her pay. Do her good.
Do her good. Do her good.
So here's... Kaylin goes off the rails here, okay?
Is she a queen for this? Or is this like a hate crime? I don't even know. She's like...
I don't know. Both, maybe?
Yeah. Hate crime queen.
So she says, what's wrong, Demmin? Not man enough to do it yourself? Have to have real men do it for you? Here's the thing. Like, I think valid, right? Like, in terms of, like, this whole thing, this is where we go to, like, the like, pedophile line of questioning angle, where, that you are kind of like, what's your fucking problem? You, like, it's very, like, fight somebody your own size, but sex, I don't know.
Fuck someone your own adultness.
Yeah, like, Zedd is silently like, oh my god, I hope she stops doing this. They're gonna make it much worse if she keeps being crazy like this. Demmin's face is turning red.
At least these are real men. At least they have what it takes to handle a woman. You probably don't.
I love the probably. Like, as if there's a chance he could.
He might, I don't know. Unless you want to prove me wrong.
You probably don't.
You only have enough for little boys. What's the matter, little boy? Afraid to show a real woman what you have? I'll be laughing at you while real men do what you can't.
Okay, like, but some part of me is like... See, like, this is not yet where I am a little bit like, whoa, but I'm not, like, you're like, I get it. Like, for sure, make him feel bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Make him feel as bad as you can.
I don't know. How do you feel about it? You seem more upset about it than me so far.
I'm just kind of like, well, knowing what I know as to what the source of all of this ire is, which is a clever ruse.
Yeah.
That makes it weird. Yeah, it just feels like maybe not what you'd be saying. It feels like what someone at a coffee table
would say that they would say. Yes.
Yes, that's how it feels. It feels like what Terry, pretending to be Kaylin, would want to yell at Demmin after this thing happened. Or, like, hearing about a rape, how he'd be like, this is what I'd want to say to him.
I agree. It totally has that tone. What I'll say is, like, maybe I'm like, okay, maybe if you lived in a world where quads exist and you're a confessor, you'd have had a lot of time
and they were sniping your sisters, too.
Dwell on this. But at the same time, a lot, but also no, because most of this actually has very little to do with rape. It has a lot more to do with being a pedophile. My thought is like, well, I feel like I've said this from the beginning when Demmin was introduced, where I was like, what is Demmin's own conception of his pedophilic nature, right? Is he like...
Yeah.
Right, no, but I'm saying, like, seriously, like, is he somebody that, like, has some sort of rationalization for, like, why it's okay, and he thinks it's good in some way?
I would say no, but...
I don't know, because I'm kind of like...
Feels like I am what I am, and that's all that I am. Popeye sort of like attitude with him.
So then, would this bother him?
Where we go,
yes.
Because she starts twisting that knife.
Yes, for sure. But like,
and we got to get into that before we can keep.
All right.
So
then he says, "Shut up, bitch." She spits in his face and says, "That's what your father would do if he knew you couldn't handle a woman. You're a disgrace to your father's name." Okay, like, it's just
classic.
Like,
that's
like,
classic.
Whatever, low-hanging fruit.
Anyone could, not red fruit, I hope.
So Demmin looks like he's gonna, like, explode, and then he calms himself down, and he smiles, and he looks around, and he says, "Over there, hold her down over that log. You want it from me? All right, bitch, you'll get it from me, but you'll get it my way. Now we'll see how good you can squirm." Okay.
My way. Which now means...
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is...
just in her ass, right?
Well, that's why, like, why else would we have specified, like, over that log, right?
Yeah.
Because we're saying, like...
Yeah.
It's anal sex.
It's anal sex now.
Yeah, I do, and I think there's enough here to start being, like, with the wiggling your bottom, now this, to have it be, like, Demmin has this fixation...
On butts?
Butts and, like, anal sex. And it feels weird because it feels like we're really vilifying it. It's It's so weird.
It feels
It's weird.
Yeah.
It feels like there's some sort of thought. There's some sort of thought.
There's a thought.
There. Maybe. I'm not going to say for sure. It could just be,
Do we get any homosexual characters in this entire series?
I think there's a couple of gay words that there's something, like I said, that Richard doesn't like.
Oh, I meant
are there any homosexual men? I doubt it. Yeah. I really doubt it. Do you get any gay men?
Ajax, write some gay men in your book.
Yeah, it's maybe weird. Well, yes.
I think your talk is all that's big. Just doing small penis talk now.
Sure.
I think you're going to embarrass yourself. Your men and I will have a good laugh.
Whatever. I get it. She's just...
yeah. Once again, they will have to do the job for you. I'm waiting, little boy. Do it to me like your father did it to you. So we can all have a good laugh. Thinking about you on your knees under him. Show me how he did it to you. What?
Well, so now I have so many questions. Does Kaylin know something about Demmin we don't know?
That's what I'm confused by, right?
Because I'm like...
Is she just shooting in the dark at what happened?
Well, here's the thing. Like, if this didn't happen, right? If that has nothing to do with Demmin's tastes...
Uh-huh.
Then this shouldn't really, like, I guess it could bother him just because you're like, why are you saying such crazy things? But, like, it wouldn't really hit because you'd be like...
That didn't happen.
I don't even know what you were talking about. So then, because Demmin gets as upset about this as he does, it sort of suggests it must be true. And then there's the weird suggestion that, like, Kaylin just...
intuited that a man who is a pedophile was raped by his own father?
Which, it's hard because there is...
Sure.
Well, there's a modern understanding of how...
I don't know if there's a medieval understanding.
I don't know that they would have known. I think that I was like, okay, how'd she know that? And like, again, it's kind of what is the prevalency of like
things I don't think you can Google. Let's
like
say,
pedophiles. Like how prevalent is it that like a pedophile, not like
was abused incestuously?
Yeah, there is a higher prevalence, but they're saying it's like actually somewhat marked. Like it's not a huge difference.
Okay, so a certain percentage of them were.
Yeah, at a higher rate.
100%, certainly.
No, definitely not 100%.
Okay.
And it was also that, like, weirdly, men that reported, like, were willing to report that they had pedophilic desire. If they were willing to report that openly, they usually had a higher percentage of having been molested versus pedophiles that were doing it and like got caught but like never admitted it had a lower rate.
Interesting. Okay, so you're telling me that not 100% of pedophiles were raped by their father on their knees?
No, so I guess that's my thing. Like, obviously I get that there's a correlation, but it's like, it's not like 100% that is going to be the case. So like her being able to like get this so spot on is kind of weird.
What does she know? How does she know this? Like, what did she just guess? And then that feels weird. This feels like just Terry's opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Like it has to feel like kind of like you're just like, that's what Terry thought is what drives pedophiles. Kaylin has the opinion sometimes of Terry. That's how it feels. It just doesn't feel like this is not saying anything about Kaylin. We're not going to learn that like Kaylin's like...
Although, I'll say maybe in a sense, because she confesses people so much, maybe she does have sort of like a pattern, like a broader sense of those patterns where she's like, I do see that regularly.
Sure. But she wouldn't say father specifically.
Maybe like in her...
She was just like, the best chances it's going to be that.
Maybe.
Then you could have done a little line where she like tested it, and if he like bristled, then she leans in because she's being like, that hit, I'm going hard for the throat. instead of just being like, this is the answer. I'm not even checking to see how he's reacting.
But then my other thought is like, I find the messaging somewhat contradictory in terms of Denna and this. Because I'm not saying, if he got raped by his dad, therefore all the shit Demmin is doing is excusable. Obviously it's not.
Yeah.
And we're saying like, okay, well, your past does not justify incredibly outlandish negative behavior to others in the present, right?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, please try and copy and paste that logic over to Denna for me.
You can't do it.
You can't, right? Because I get it. It's less unpalatable. There's things about her that are way cooler and more complex. And yes, it makes it really simple when you say Denna's really complicated, Demmin's not,
for sure,
to feel that way towards her and not him. But like, where is the moral consistency?
Had to do an inversion.
Okay.
So Caitlin was captured by Demmin Nass, but we did a month-long, she's locked up, he's raping her, doing all this, but then eventually it comes to the point of it's like him realizing I'm only doing this because it happened to me as a child, and like I felt so, and like I don't want to be like this. And then Caitlin forgiving him but killing him. Like, there's a world where that story happens.
Yeah, I know.
But it's just like, because it didn't.
Because it didn't, it didn't.
And that's that. So it's like,
and I get it, like,
in a book about truth, in a book about these absolutes, we're not actually dealing with them.
I know, I'm so confused on that one. Like, I get it. Like, it's kids. I know, and and if you really wanted that to be the separation point, putting in the muddying with Princess Violet was an odd choice.
Agreed.
But I get it. Like, obviously, it's extra unpalatable and evil towards children versus adults. But I don't think the gap is quite so big that I would be like, oh, Den is outside of the unforgivable zone. I just think what she does is crazy, really, if you think about it.
It's
like,
definitely
it's nuts.
Crazy.
It's crazy she
and
does
just because
that.
At the end she had a realization of maybe how crazy it is.
But we even let her maintain her, like, attachment to what she does.
I know.
All the way to the end, which has a certain, of course, emotional resonance and, like, poetic
I get that.
beauty about it. But that, to me, feels like the book is being like, okay, we are... Which, like, I don't know. But I guess... I don't know that we're even...
All I'm going to say is we don't make Constance eat her own tits, all right? That's all I'm going to say. We don't make Constance cut her tits off and eat them with the bad sword.
It's true. We don't do that. Well, then Duchess Lumholtz's fan would have another scene.
He'd have a fucking field day.
He would have had another scene to hyperfixate on.
The cum would flow. All right. I hate this chapter. Oh, all right.
There's something cathartic, perhaps, about Kaylin ruining the rape for him in some way.
Sure.
Right? There's something cathartic about being like, he's going to do it, and then being like, I'm just planting this traumatic image into your brain.
Yep.
To make you. But, like, how would it have felt if Richard... like, during his tortures, had been like, Denna, is this what it was like when you were like...
When you broke your own father?
Yeah, like, how would we have felt about that?
Is it because Richard's better than Kaylin?
I
Like,
don't know.
What are we saying here?
You know, like, I'm so interested to be like, well, what if he did that? And he would, like, be well within his right.
Is it some sort of metaphor for, like, how men are supposed to take abuse, being like...
Good God.
It's okay. Versus, like, women, like, you should not get abused, and, like, this, you deserve to get killed for abusing
honestly,
women. But you actually are maybe, like, forgivable for abusing men. Like, what are we saying
right, because
here?
I'm like, Kaylin, obviously we're like, she is right to do this. This shouldn't be happening to her, etc. And then even when Richard is getting tortured, we're like... But what about Denna? Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, what about Denna? She's tortured.
What about this crazy bitch? Like, let her...
I don't know, but then I did cry when she died, so what's up with that?
Could someone have made you cry for Demmin?
I don't know. Well, it's like he'd have to be a completely different character.
In a very different story.
You know?
Yeah.
And then it's like hard because you're like, yeah, it's easy to pulp up torture dominatrix in leather. You can't pulp up pedophilia.
No, you can't.
Right? So, like, it always comes down to these weird...
I'll say, Guts was sexually assaulted as a child. And did he resort to pedophilia? No.
No, he did not.
He definitely didn't.
He's one
In
of
fact, he was very gentle and sweet the first time he had any sex.
That's so true.
And he would definitely kill Demmin.
So, yeah, Demmin goes nuts when she says that.
Yeah.
His veins are bursting out of his head. His eyeballs are bulging, and he starts choking Kaylin. One of the other men is like, hey, you're going to kill her, which they're not supposed to do. And he lets go of her because they need her to confirm the book of Counted Shadows, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
And whatever, listens.
There's so many problems with that. Keep going.
He lets
Keep
go.
going.
And he says, what does a bitch like you know of anything? And then she says, I know you're a liar. I know your master wouldn't let a little boy like you know what he had done with the Seeker. You know nothing. I just feel like, I don't care how angry Demmin is in this moment. I just feel like it's so obvious what she's doing.
I mean, it definitely is. But I guess he had his worst trauma trotted out in front of his men, and a wolf bit him a couple times. Maybe he's not like 100%.
So Brophy really did
Brophy,
do what he
frazzled
needed.
him enough. No, honestly, I think his response to this is just to shut her up. Like, I think it's like, he's like, yeah, whatever. You want to know that? Which I'm kind of on his side. I'm like, why are you doing all this for that?
I don't know.
It's because it flips the switch to the Avatar state, but...
And Zedd's like, oh, that was her angle all along. She thinks she's going to die anyway, so she wants to know that Richard is safe before she dies.
Glad we have a Wizard of the First Order to spell it out for us.
Got it, yeah. And then he hears like Chase rustling on the ground, which I'm sure will be relevant later. Demmin punches Kaylin. He picks her up by her hair. Kaylin says, you know nothing. Your fist says it all. Your master might tell your father, but he wouldn't tell your father's little girl anything. Feels like everything here kind of it's hard to even dig into anything here because the whole thing is set up and being presented as Kaylin is just trying to anger Demmin as much as possible. Yeah. So you can't really read anything into it in terms of like, do we mean this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
True.
I'm not expecting, and certainly not in this way of them interacting, Demmin and Kaylin. I'm obviously not expecting her to be like, I'm gonna forgive you and I feel bad for you. I don't think that.
No. Maybe Dennis shouldn't have gotten forgiven either, but yeah, whatever.
But it kind of fits. So like that's why I'm having trouble with it, because like the morality is not consistent and it feels kind of weird, but then at the same time I'm like, yeah, the context of how you come to these moments is important, and we see how Richard got there, and like with Kaylin it's like obviously why would she get there.
It also maybe it's slight, I mean it's fucked on some levels, but maybe it's a slight inversion because the man is the one forced into the empathetic role while the woman is the one allowed to experience like unfettered revenge and domination and all that.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
usually it's the man
that's kind of Jungian.
Yeah.
Because they do say, well, it was in my book that I just read. I don't know, there's like a belief with Jungian psychologists that like it is on the masculine journey, your job is to learn how to be more empathetic. And then the woman's job is to learn how to be more selfish and less empathetic, because that's usually the thing that needs balancing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And that's kind of what's happening to them, right?
Yeah. And then literally what's happening to them is them exploring the other side of their magic, both of them. So...
Yes, true. I wonder if that's what it is.
Yeah, it is. But it's also like...
I know.
It's clumsy when we deal with
absolutes.
It is
clumsy. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. Like, I kind of don't hate it from, like, if I get into, like, just from the POV of, like, Kaylin and Richard as character journeys. It's like, okay.
Interestingly enough, originally in its underworld form, the sword's magic cuts... And then he learns how to use the additive version of it, which is the white sword.
I see what you're saying.
And Kaylin's power is the inverse.
Right.
Where it's the white form is the Confessor's touch, and then the Kandar activation is the dark underworld version. because it's the hate.
Okay.
So
that fits
he starts
our theory.
with the hate and learns the love, and she starts with the love and learns the hate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
I think
it is literally what you were just saying with the young
See, so
versus.
I do think that's now I'm like that's definitely what he was doing.
Sure, it's clumsy as a writing exercise. Like it's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't make a good story. It just makes an interesting.
I think you could do that easily while not making like Demmin and Denna so ridiculously like he's literally just like a sketch made out of sticks and Denna's like an oil painting.
Exactly. Yes.
And,
no.
Right. Like that's the part that starts to feel like
that is because
what?
of Terry's lack of skill as an author, and I think his lack of interest in making those things truly even, which is really bad when you're trying to do all of this black and white work.
Yeah.
You need to be so committed to doing the black and the white evenly and doing all that if you're going to.
But what do you mean by black and white? Because I guess I feel like Denna's gray.
Correct.
And then Demmin's black.
Yeah, you can't have that. If you want a trial,
keeps Kaylin and Richard's journey feeling really imbalanced.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So now Richard gets a fuller journey.
Yeah.
Where he gets to be this Christ-like redeemer figure.
Right.
And Kaylin just gets to destroy something bad.
Right.
And that's less interesting. But is that the typical male journey? I don't know. Kind of.
How?
Men usually are just destroying the monster and not really contemplating whether or not it was a mother or anything, you know?
Okay.
You know?
Maybe.
You think of the first Predator movie and Arnold Schwarzenegger's blowing up the Predator. He's not like, did it have a kid? Like, he's not thinking
this is what
about it.
I guess I struggle with because, like, sometimes when I come to a conclusion with Terry like this, where I'm like, oh, okay, suddenly something opens up and I see what he's doing, and I'm like, that it kind of works when I look at it through that lens. But it's like, in order for him to make that lens work, so much of it as like a general story suffers.
Yes,
and
I
you're
agree.
like, was it worth it? Or could we have figured out a way to work with that lens and kept the integrity of it
The lens is too intense.
Yeah.
It's not. You're not supposed to write with those lenses that focused in.
Yeah, right.
They're supposed to be broader, and you're supposed to get the glimpses of that lens throughout a much more poetic and just softer story writing idea. You're supposed to be like, oh, I see the through lines.
Yeah.
That is the lens. You're not supposed to just go like glaring fucking light through this like magnifying glass.
I guess so. I don't know.
And if you're gonna do it, it needs to be even. It feels
But
very
that's the thing. It's not that
askew.
Kaylin... Because it's not that Demmin has all this complexity and we've seen it, and then Kaylin, in her masculine journey, is ignoring it.
No.
It's like, we're being like, no, literally, he doesn't have it. So, I don't know.
Her trial had only one answer.
Right.
And it's boring. That was the foregone conclusion when we first met Demmin.
I know.
Like, this man needs to be eradicated. And look, we're approaching it rapidly. There's no choice. There's no consequence. There's no like, yeah, of course, if you give him the opportunity, eviscerate this person.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens.
So Demmin's like, yeah, I'll tell you what we did to Richard. And then Terry kind of describes what it looks like. Kaylin standing naked in front of him. Her face is red with anger. Zedd is describing it, I guess, technically, and he says that she's not a small woman, but she looks small next to Demmin, and she's breathing hard. She has one fist at her side, and her other arm is hanging limp at her side, and she has blood all over her. I think the imagery is kind of cool in that pulpy way, like making this big man with his stupid zigzag hair, and then like Kaylin being like this small, naked, bloodied woman with the broken arm, and then she still has the fist. Like, I really kind of resonate with Kaylin's like fury here. Like, I do enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
So I liked that imagery. And then so then going right from that into Devin's speech is
almost a month ago, an artist drew a spell.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah. Why do you even start that far back?
Because they don't know that yet. Because they don't know what happened to Richard.
They don't care.
So Demmin has to tell them.
I guess they might care, but Demmin doesn't care, and Demmin doesn't know they care.
And Demmin wouldn't bother to tell them.
No.
Demmin would be like, I saw him with the Mordsith. Like, that would be it. It would start there.
About a month ago, an artist drew a spell.
It's like you're starting a fucking, like, a verse of Devil Went Down to Georgia. About a month ago, an artist drew a spell.
So he's like, the court artist trapped him. And then Mordsith took him, and everybody, like, Zedd and Kaylin, they all, like, go pale and are like, oh my god, not a Mordsith. The
one thing you should have warned him about.
Yeah, so it says Zedd felt as if he had been stabbed through the heart. I'm like, why did none of you think this might happen? The Mordsith work for Dark and Raw.
I'm done with that question, all right? Like, I'm done. Everyone failed Richard a million times.
But, like, they all are like, he couldn't have been captured by a Mordsith. Well, why not? That's what they do.
You mean the bad guy with his army of people that capture people with magic when they don't know how to use it that well?
Yeah.
Those people?
Well, of course they can capture.
They're out.
You sent him by himself.
He should not have left the Westlands without, like, the How to Avoid Mordsith pack.
Yeah, no kidding.
Crazy.
I just think it's so funny that they're like, that could not be.
Oh, no.
Like, why not?
Why did this accident happen? It's not it was gonna happen.
The guy who's after us that we're trying to beat, he sent his army after him? No way. Okay.
Crazy.
So he's like, oh yeah, he was with Denna. She's a really bad, extra bad Mordsith. And I saw him at dinner covered in blood, and Kaylin asks if he's alive. And then Demmin says, the last time he saw Richard, he was on his knees in front of Dark and Raw with Denna's angel at the back of his head, and he didn't even know his own name. And Master All was unhappy at the time, and when he is unhappy, people always die, except for Queen Milena for some reason. But if that's true, I agree. That seems like his characterization. Why didn't he kill her? Yeah. From what Master All said to me when I left, I'm sure the Seeker never rose from his knees. His corpse is rotten by now. I get why they're all stressed out, but I'm also like, he did not confirm that Richard is dead. He said he was alive. I guess that plus the underworld thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. Kaylin goes dead calm, and Zedd wants to comfort her. And then... cliffhanger.
What happens next?
What could happen next?
What?
This was so all over the place.
This was supposed to be short. Yeah. Wow.
I don't know. I just have conflicted feelings about it all.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on. Yeah, the book doesn't create a world in which there's a place for us to have a nuanced conversation about these topics, so the onus falls on us to support the concepts outside of the book.
True.
Which is a frustrating journey.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, I mean, we're not monetized, but there's no way we could have any of these conversations.
Well, he didn't write the book so we could be monetized.
No. Well, I mean, he should have been thinking about us in the future, but no.
What does that matter?
These are intense things that don't, like...
But, like, I think it's cool if a book just is like, hey, have a conversation, start a thought.
Sure.
I like that.
I agree.
And this is it be starting lots of conversations.
Yeah, definitely. Like, is this plagiarism? Or how much rape is too much rape?
Right.
And,
it is starting conversations, so we can respect it for that. I'm like not even being facetious. I actually kind of respect it for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's almost better as an alchemical
it is
like pictograph 100%. More than it is like a book at this point. Like, it's like he's got a lot of the magnum opus concepts going on.
Yeah, they're in there.
So anyway, part 1 of chapter 47.
Yep.
And then we will tackle part 2 next time. And we owe you guys a couple of side episodes too.
Well, we owe you side episodes. We're going to do Legend of the Seeker. We'll take a little break.
We'll probably take a little break because we have consistently...
but like for real, not a long one. But yeah, we have...
we have hit the 2-week upload mark.
Don't say it. Now I can't. I'm so close to it being perfect in the end.
All right, yeah, so I'm not going to say it. 2 years then, right? Almost?
I know, but that makes me sad.
we're probably gonna do this the rest of our lives. As long as we have time, we're gonna be putting shit up. So
the first one is ending.
That means the second one's starting. You really hate endings.
I do.
And I really love new things. So that's why we work out.
But I get sad.
I know. Until you're in the new thing.
Okay. Thanks for coming on that journey.
Yeah.
Bad things ahead.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.